Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are tuning in from. This is the Blackout Live from New York with me, your host, Tasemere. We're going to go back to something that was actually the starting point of the Blackout Live from New York, where we're going to do some dissecting of current articles, mainly here in the US for today. So, the Blackout Live from New York with me, your host, Tajmir's purpose is to celebrate Black folks across the diaspora and to have an open dialogue about Black economics, how we reimagine trends in business, and how do we really explore the magic that we have. So, I'm happy to be getting back to something that I was doing that I found really rewarding. And before we jump into news articles, I'm not sure if my listeners and or viewers know about the Black Wall Street Awards that is produced by Donnie Glover, but he was here in New York City, specifically Harlem yesterday, giving out awards to some local heroes really that are doing amazing work throughout New York City, from prison reformed and trying to get bills passed to people in economic development, to entrepreneurs. It was really, really amazing to witness the work that we may or may not even know is happening, but people are definitely trying to do their part with making New York City and ultimately the world a better place. So I just needed to shout that out. I was super, super happy to be a part of it yesterday. So I wanted to get into some news that I know most of us know about, some of us maybe not so much. You have to know about our newest Justice Jackson, who has been sworn in this week. And I wanted to just make sure that everyone knew what was going on. So I am definitely sharing my screen. Good morning, chap. So happy to see you today. I'm definitely sharing my screen with you guys so you guys can see what I'm seeing. So, our new justice to the Supreme Court is Justice Jackson. She is going to be the first Black woman to serve as a justice on the highest court of the land. She won her votes 53 to 47. She did get some bipartisan support. However, I'm not sure if folks have been able to watch this really historic I don't even want to say debate, but basically, she was interviewing in front of the Senate for her seat to be a justice on the Supreme Court. And she had an incredible resume. I mean, there was almost nothing that she didn't do as an attorney, as a judge, as someone that really made it a point to study and practice the law. But she received some tough criticism. So let's take a watch and a listen now. hope that you guys were able to see that short clip about her confirmation hearing. However, if I don't know if you guys might have been watching some other of the Senate's opinions, while they felt that she was super qualified, in some instances overqualified for the position, they still decided to vote no. And I'm not sure if it was solely based on her decisions as a judge in another circuit court, and or if race played a role in it. I'm not gonna touch that topic. I'll leave you guys to decide for yourself. However, this is a very important moment in American history where we are reckoning with a lot of our birthrights as African American folks living here in the United States. And so I know for sure her confirmation for Black people and maybe other folks around the world and the nation are seeing this as a win and a step in the right direction. And so I'm super excited to see what her briefs will be looking like, what her opinion pieces will be on as she starts hearing some cases on the bench. So now I wanted to move into an article that I found entitled "Residents of Black Tennessee Town Fire Back in Court Against." Guess what? The state was actually trying to make them pay for their sewage bill and kept, really going after them about this. And they basically were able to say that this was almost a hostile takeover, according to them. And so in Tennessee, the comptroller kept attempting to take over a Black town, the Black town of Mason. And they kept asking for all of these financials that they weren't necessarily asking for before, but as a way to police what they were doing with the budget. And so they have now been forced to scale it down to just monitoring the financial operations and making sure that they are complying to specific deadlines. But let's jump into this. The lawsuit filed by the NAACP National Organization and its Tennessee chapter argues that the financial oversight plan is in violation of the Tennessee Constitution and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, specifically by trying to take over Madison's finances without proper justification, and because most of the township leaders and residents are African Americans. The attorneys stated in the filing that the proposed treatment of Madison and its leadership is marked by irregularities and differs specifically from the treatment and similarly situated predominantly white jurisdictions. And so I'm sorry, I was getting a little tongue-tied there. But this is really important to note because I think more than ever, we are seeing that people are really taking deep dives into constitutional rights in the public space. And although this isn't the first time that people have been, questioning not being serviced by certain statutes and our laws, this for me is one of the first times that these things are very public, and really because of the digital age, right? Like we're able to know more about what's going on across the nation than ever before because we have access. And so this is important for me to just put a pin right here and park it for a moment, that having access and something as simple as internet definitely opens up your mind to understanding what's going on, not just in your neighborhood or on your block or in your city, but what's happening in other cities and how these policies or lack thereof of policies can definitely change and or impact what's going on in your life. So it is definitely important for us to follow what's going on in Tennessee. Before this, I had no idea that this was something that was happening, but I'm so glad that I, stumbled upon that article and definitely wanted to bring it to light. Now, another article that I wanted to talk about was or is around insulin. And that speaks specifically to diabetes. And it is important for us to also follow what's going on in the pharmaceutical industry because this definitely impacts everybody, right? If you get sick and you have an illness, you definitely need and want to make sure that you are going to be able to get the proper health care that you need to, continue to live and flourish. And so the GOP makes price gouges for diabetics on insulin part of its official party platform. And basically, they voted, I'll just read this, 193 House Republicans voted against clipping the price of insulin at $35 a month. So this is very important for us to understand because in America, we have a lot of people with a lot of different health challenges that they are trying to navigate, okay? And sometimes the cost for these very important drugs is often out of many Americans' budgets, right? Maybe their health insurance doesn't cover it. Maybe it only covers a portion of it, but these can be drugs that you really need to continue to live your life and really thrive. And so it's important for us to take a look at what is going on in the world of health as it relates to the pharmacy. And so here we're talking about some people are paying up to $1,000 a month for insulin. That's crazy. I mean, just look at yourself. Would you be able to afford that? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I know we all know some folks that might not be able to afford that. And so Bernie Sanders had a presidential campaign where he took a bus full of Americans to Canada to buy a cheaper jug just to prove this point. So they wanted to propose of having a cap that, the insurance should have to pay more than what they are paid for folks to have, their insulin. And basically, I'm not really sure we're going to get to the point of solving this, but this is another important thing to know. This is always a challenge for many Americans. We cannot afford health insurance in some states and or cities. And when you do have health insurance, sometimes it doesn't cover everything that you need it to cover. And this can be both a financial burden on you and your family. This can be very emotional and psychological. Like you might become depressed if you can't afford your medication, and or you can, start to say, do I have to choose between paying my rent and where I'm going to live, or do I choose to purchase my medicine, or do I not take the proper dose so that way I can stretch my medicine out? I mean, this is something that I really wish that we can really get a handle on. I think that we are one of the most powerful nations in the world. At least that's the propaganda that we put out to the rest of the world and to ourselves, and not being able to have everybody afford the medical attention that they need to continue to live their lives and thrive is just criminal. And that goes across all races, all genders, all social economic statuses. We need to be able to take care of ourselves, period. And I really want us to get to a point where we can make medication available to everyone that needs it. I mean, I know that there's a solution to this problem, and while it might be complex, I'm really hoping that we can one day be able to come up with a solution that works for many people so that way they're able to get something as simple as insulin. And just for the record, I do not have diabetes, okay? I do not suffer from this disease. However, I do know people that do, as well as I know people that have high blood pressure, and other folks have other conditions that they are always trying to figure out, how am I going to afford my medication? And or they're locked into living in certain cities, even though they might not want to live there, only because they know that they can get really good health insurance. And that's also something that we don't spend a lot of time talking about. Health insurance in New York City can look vastly different from Tennessee, where we just, reviewed this article at, which can look vastly different from Baltimore and look vastly different from the Bay Area. And so people sometimes make decisions about where they will live based on what kind of services they need. And so what this tends to do is to put strain on some cities versus other cities, because people are just, trying to figure out how are they going to live, and they need to get these life saving medications. And I'm not mad about that, but I think that we need to just, do a better job about it. So I also wanted to switch gears a little bit and go down to Georgia. Yes, we need to see what is going on in Georgia, because when I read this article, I was like, say what? This is still happening? So a Georgia college professor calls the police on two students who arrived late to class. That you are not hearing me misread or add flavor to this. This is something that definitely happened. Since then, this professor has been, put on suspension or something. She is not teaching for the rest of this semester. But yes, this is exactly what happened. I'm looking for the video so I can share with you guys what actually went down. But yeah, this professor definitely called the police. This was definitely posted on TikTok. As you guys can see, social media is doing some justice here. And I can only imagine that these students are feeling a lot of different feelings. One of the classmates says that the students are traumatized, to say the least. And the students were only 2 minutes late for class. I don't know what's going on. What do you guys think about this? I know we might have some people viewing in. Hi, Rita. How are you? Good morning. But what are you guys thinking? Is this necessary? Should this be something that is going on? I'm also going to try to pull up the video, because I think it's important for us to always be objective about what is happening. I'm going to try to pull up the video here. Oh, see, I found it. Let's go to the video footage. Hopefully this loads. Oh my gosh, they are not letting me get this video. What is going on? This is some craziness that is happening here. I'm gonna try another one. This is me trying to bring you guys the live news. Is it gonna work? Hopefully. There we go. Thank you guys for being patient with me. I am unsure why this video is not playing. Come on, video. Are you thinking? Well, while the video is thinking, for folks that are just tuning in, I think the video is buffering or going through some sort of changes. A professor at Georgia State University is no longer in the classroom because she reportedly called the police on 2 Black students for arriving late to class. And it was posted on TikTok. I just want to know why. Why was this the escalation of what happened? According to another article, the students were only about 2 minutes late. So I don't even know why that. When I was in college, I showed up to some classes late. I never feared that my professor would call the police. And I also wasn't, if you're only about 5 minutes late, or in this case, 2 minutes late, why can't you sit in the class? I'm not quite sure what's going on, and I'm not sure what's happening that we cannot get this video that I am desperately trying to view here. But I will not spend more time on this video shenanigan. Maybe we can come back to it in a bit. But for now, I will just hop on over to the slap that was heard, felt, watched around the world. You guys should all know about this slap by now. Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars for what Will Smith feels is an inappropriate joke that he made about his wife's alopecia. And so he basically walked up on the stage and just slapped Chris Rock. We're not going to get into whether the slap was appropriate or not appropriate, or how he should have handled that entire situation. I want to talk about the money, because where the money resides, quote unquote, is where the money resides. Okay. Will Smith has suffered because of this very public slap, is now potentially hitting his pockets. Netflix and Sony hit pause on new Will Smith movies after the Oscar slap. And for Chris Rock, he actually has started to sell out on a tour date that I didn't even know that he had. So let's just talk about that. So this slap is definitely hurting Will Smith's pockets. And I'm guessing there's going to be more to come. And so I wanted to just share this article here. As I said, Netflix and Sony hit pause on new Will Smith movie after Oscar slap. And I don't know where else this is going to go. For one, we know Bad Boys 4 is paused. I wonder how that is going to impact other cast members or mates on the show, because that's definitely stopping their money flow. Fast and Loose had already lost its director, and when this slap happened, they kind of just moved it to the back burner. Will Smith resigned from the Academy of Motion Pictures and Science Friday, whenever this was posted. So this was posted on published on April 2nd. So that Friday, whatever that date was. And I'm sure that there's going to be more things that are going to be coming down the pipe for him. And I think that this is just a very important lesson that our actions can impact our economics a lot. And sometimes it can impact other folks' economics as well. So now for my final review of an article, which is some more like celebrity tea, I guess you want to say. We have a rapper by the name of E40. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he basically has been working on his ice cream brand and has 6 different flavors that are going to be released very soon. And so I'm excited about this. I know in previous episodes or airtime slots, I have talked about celebrities who are becoming venture capitalists. They are funding other ideas. We know that usually happens with the Jay-Z's of the world and things of that nature. Serena Williams also has backed a VC fund that is really trying to pour back into Black entrepreneurship. We also know Master P is like the master of this, of creating other brands and economic streams of income for he and his empire. And so now we see E40 doing something very similar to this, coming out with his new ice cream business venture. Super excited. The flavors are going to be cookie dough, bourbon vanilla, vanilla bean, strawberry mint chocolate, and salted caramel. Wanting to know, how is he going to keep up with this? I mean, for refrigeration space in a supermarket is a big deal. Like, I do not want this to be lost on folks. Getting your ice cream in the freezer of any kind of retailer is really, really hard. Okay, that's a really hard thing to do. Moreover, having the marketing budget in order to continue to have people go into that particular store and purchase your ice cream, also super, super, super hard to do. So hat is off to E40 for doing this, wanting to see how this grows. Maybe his line might expand. Maybe he might venture into maybe, the beverage space. Not really sure, but excited to know more about that. So to just wrap up, today we reviewed articles from the new Justice Jackson, to Tennessee. They have a township called Black Mason where they were suing the comptroller from a hostile takeover of their budget, to some celebrity gossip news. We definitely talked about Will Smith and the slap heard, felt, seen around the world, but we also are thinking through the economic ramifications of that slap. And then we talked about E40 just a few minutes ago about his new ice cream. This is Tasemere, your host of the Blackout Live from New York. Very excited to be here with you guys this morning. This segment is designed to talk about Black economics across the diaspora. And while we didn't venture into other countries and or nations, I usually do that, but today we stayed a little local here in the US. We looked at how different business trends and or just best practices are happening around the world, and how can Black folks really start taking advantage. I was speaking with someone just yesterday, and she made a very good point that emerging trends are no longer emerging by the time it reaches our community. It is no longer an emergent trend. And so what we need to do as a group of people is to really push the envelope and thinking beyond what we can see. And we even heard this last week from the guy that I interviewed, Charlie O'Donnell, saying we have to be imaginative and start creating things that don't necessarily exist yet, so we can somehow get a market share of the overall market. By the time we reach and learn about new business trends, best practices, what's happening, oftentimes the money has already been made. And while there is money still to be made, it's not enough. Okay, so we need to just, start broadening our horizons, stretching ourselves to figure out what our place in the business economic system is going to be. This is Tasemere, your host of the Blackout Live from New York. Looking forward to being back here with you next week. Ciao.